How can you, just as a philosophical question, a lot of the people who are pushing censorship, in fact, I would say almost all of them in both parties, particularly the Democratic Party, claim they're doing so in order to protect democracy. But how can you have a democracy with censorship?
So you want to know the best measure of the health of a democracy? We're a constitutional republic, but I'll use lowercase d democracy.
There you go. There you go.
Right? He's got resist.
People always applaud at that. I love that.
It's just the truth, though, right?
Democracy is a feature, all right? Not the core thing in America, all right? It's a feature, guys.
No, it is true.
Republic.
But the civics majors love it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. But the best measure of the health of our American democracy, our constitutional republic, is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public.
Agreed.
That's the metric. It's not the number of ballots cast every November. That's just going through the motions.
Yep.
It is not some other metric of what the media says on a given day. It is the percentage of people who will say in public what they're willing to say behind closed doors.
Exactly.
There's no doubt we're doing poorly. The culture is censorious enough. Now, if you say the government on top of that is using social media companies to do through the back door what government could not censor through the front door under the Constitution.
Corporatism.
That creates the real threat to lowercase d democracy.
Mm-hmm.
My litmus test is if Vladimir Putin was doing it and we would call it a threat to democracy, it's a threat to democracy when we do it on this side of the Atlantic.
Absolute standards. That's what I want. Right? This is why I'm not for identity politics, affirmative action. No. Referee, everyone's judged by the same rules. Because the minute you start doing selective, pick and choose when you want to apply the law, you cause division. Offer it because of division. Oh, you got lower scores than me, but you got in because of what? You're a black man. I'm an Asian girl with a 200 SAT score, and I couldn't get into Harvard because they wanted more representation. That's discrimination. Hey, man, this is how you destroy a culture. This is how you destroy unity. By doing stuff like that. By being selective. Oh, we censor your speech, but then we let this guy ramble on. He can disparage religion, but the minute you say this person is not a biological male, you're banned. You're censored. I digress, man.
As well. Okay, that's a good way of not pointing the finger at somebody else, but looking ourselves in the mirror and asking ourselves who we really are. Ooh. And this is personal for me. I'm a Republican candidate for U.S. president. It feels still new to say that. Not a politician by nature, but I bring that fact up. You know, now, as of very recently, certainly polling reasonably well in the recent polls. And I bring that up because against that backdrop, Microsoft owned LinkedIn, censored my social media account. They locked my account, said I can't get in to make statements that are factually grounded statements about climate change, about Biden's relationship with China, about the ESG movement's perpetuation of a climate cult in this country, all grounded in fact, saying that it violates their policies for hate speech, misinformation. And I'm not making this one up. They said violence in the email. And so in my case, look, I was able to publicize.
How fragile is society where words are seen as violent? Crazy. Words are just an idea. Words is just an expression, but that's violence now. How fragile our society is, guys.
That they were then claimed it was an error, restored the account, typical operating procedure. But it's that culture of censorship in our country that I think we also, I'm trying to do my part, where I was in Ottumwa, Eastern Iowa, earlier this week. Smaller event than this, but we're on the stage talking. Somebody walks in. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. At first I thought, usually if they're screaming, sometimes they're in favor of what you're saying. So I said, thank you. But I realized that actually, no, she...
when she bit you?
She came... so she was out of control, okay?
Yeah. I know her. I ran into her at Dulles Airport last week. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We've all seen a version of her, but the truth is, so security was escorting her out, and it felt wrong to me, right? Because she came here to make a point. She was totally wild in the way she was making it, but I'm watching her walk out the door. She's at the back of the room now, and I said, this doesn't feel right.
Don't.
Right, because as I said earlier, you tell people they can't speak, that's when they scream. You tell people they can't scream, and she was screaming. That's when they're going to
violent.
go tear something down.
Yep.
So I said, no, bring her back. We gave her the mic. I said, say, I promised. You ask your question, but I promise I get to answer it in return. She agrees to that. It turns out she's a
Single
pro-choice advocate, a my body, my choice person. I was going to the state legislature on Tuesday morning. I think she must have known that. Came to this event to protest my being there. But I give her the mic. She's just talking for, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But by the end of it, it actually turns out, the story comes out that she's a single mother who did bring her daughter into the world.
Yeah.
And the things she was saying were things like, my daughter is successful. I don't want you to look down on me. And I thought,
Yeah, like a lot of people subscribe like emotional things to some of the stances they take, right? And they take these stances to be rebellious against some perceived slight against them. And I think this is some of the like more philosophical, cultural stuff about politics. Is like this single mom, and I saw the video that he's talking about. She was like, nothing she said made any correlation or any connection to actual abortion. Oh, I don't want people to look down on me because I'm a single mom. My kid came out great because I'm a single mom and all this stuff. So it's almost like some emotional trauma that she projected onto some policy position. Oh, this is how I resist against this idea against me. Right? And it's a crazy thing when you realize that a lot of things we like believe in or we like is not purely logical, right? Emotionality plays some form and some factor into that, right? But, I digress. Let's get back. Let him tell his story,
I thought it was beautiful that the more she started talking, the more she started making our very point of why we believe in protecting life. And so I said, disagreements aside, you are a mother. We celebrate that. The audience applauded. It's why I love Iowans.
Wow.
She broke down in tears and left. And so I'm moved by what is possible in our country. Our country is broken. We are spiritually broken. We have a spiritual void in this country. It is our job to step up and fill that void.
I agree.
By practicing what we preach as conservatives. And so I'm hoping we're doing that. I love doing that in Iowa. It's been something that's really lifted me up in a way that was never an experience I had as a CEO or in business. I've never had these experiences as we've had in the last few months. And honestly, as broken as our country is, it leaves me optimistic about where we're headed.
And you can listen to people. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not going to hurt you.
So what? Okay, so it's so interesting. So you, and I think the intro of you described some of it, but you're coming from a completely different world. It's not like you were mayor, state legislator.
Nope.
You're coming from business and technology and biotech. So what have you learned? Like, how have your views changed since you immersed yourself in crowds of voters and started listening to people?
Yeah, so I think my views have changed in part by my belief that we're not as divided as they make it out to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because many CEOs in this country are frightened, right? Of speaking their mind openly. It actually stops, many of them will say, well, stops them from being donors to me, to maybe other causes. They're deathly scared because they believe that we're a nation at our breaking point.
And here's another thing too. I think what's also driving all this is that we lack courage now, right? There's a Stoic book called Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday. And I read that book and I said, America's desperate for people with courage. The courage to, hey, I'm going to put my name behind this person. And so if I get retribution for that, so be it. But I believe what I believe, right? It's better to be hated for someone who you like for being honest than to be liked because of a lie, right? It's better to be real and be hated than to be faked and liked. And this is what a lot of black liberals don't understand about me and black conservatives in general. It's like, I can't not see what I didn't see. I see that racism is not a big problem in my life. I see white privilege isn't the biggest thing, the biggest problem in my life. And why does the opinions of other people have so much effect on me? It doesn't, unless I give it power. Right? And is this like absolving of personal responsibility is what we have to fight in our culture. And that takes courage because people will viciously fight for their alibis for failure. And I think we underestimate that feeling a lot. And it takes just as much vigor and just as much force and just as much strength to counter that. And I want, like he said, lead by example. Ask not what a good man is, be one. So I'm being one.